Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Female Educators Roundtable with Debby Enoe from Teacher Success Coach and two guests of mine, and we'll be looking at parents. What are the issues with parents actually homeschooling the children? Because in the past, when I actually come to you guys, we're looking at educators' challenge and triumphs, but we're now looking at parents. As we know, as parents, we've got a lot of challenges, we've got a lot of triumph, we've got a lot of uncertainty because this is new to us. So on a Saturday, I'll be talking to parents for them to discuss with us what some of the issues are and how they're navigating this new platform. Because when we were actually in lockdown the very first time last year, we didn't have any of this. Because as an educator, all we did was we give students the packages, they went home, they did it as homework, they actually uploaded to us, and that was it. We marked it and things like that. Some teachers marked it, some didn't. But now it's a situation where it is full on. We are actually teaching these children online and they don't have their cameras on. They're muted, some of them muted. Even when you speak to them, you're not getting any response. And these are some of the things the parents have to encourage. Well, I feel they need to encourage the children to put the cameras on, to participate, and all of that. So it'd be really nice to hear what some of these parents are experiencing and how they're navigating the so-called new normal. As a parent myself and an educator, it is really challenging because when I'm teaching, when I give my student a break, I then have to check on my son to see whether or not he's engaging with his teachers or whether or not he's doing the work or he's drawing with his camera off, and you name it, I've had all of that. So when I'm teaching, I know that I'm not seeing the student behind the camera, so I'm thinking they're doing the same thing that my son is doing. Because when I go upstairs, my son is drawing. He's not even listening to his teacher sometimes because he says boring. Yes, we know it can be boring, especially if the children are not seeing the teachers. But my students are seeing me, but I'm not seeing them. So it's one-sided. So it'll be really nice for me to get the views of these parents. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for coming on board. I do appreciate that you guys coming and sharing your story with us and sharing some of the tips that you've actually identified and some of the strategies that you are now using, because I know nobody have been telling you guys what to do. You're finding it out yourself as you go along. So can you please introduce yourself? And then we take it from here. Oh, my guests are from the UK. I haven't had guests from the UK for a while. So it's really nice.
Okay. Hi, I'm Natalie Marie. I have two children. A 9-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. It's up to you what you want to say in terms of what do you do? Do you work at home as well as, having to teach?
Okay. So yeah. So I'm founder of my company called the Lone Parent, which is I'm a money mindset coach, helping single mums create wealth and build their dreams. And I do that full time while home educating my children.
Okay, thank you for that. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hi, my name's Teresa. I have two children also, two boys, 5 and 2. So just one of them in education. I'm a virtual assistant, also self-employed, and so working from home full-time whilst doing home learning as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so what has it been like having to teach your children at home and you being sent a pack, or whether or not you're teaching them online? What is it all about? How does it feel?
Well, at the beginning, back when lockdown first happened in March last year, we were sent packs at first, and then they transitioned to online last year.
Okay.
But my son, firstly my son, he found it, he was getting bored. He was bored of the history, he was bored of the science, he was bored of the English. And what I did, I just had to be creative and think outside the box. When I looked at the work, I found it boring. I didn't want to learn about Vikings, Stone Age. I didn't want to learn anything like that. So them being half Caribbean and half Kenyan, I found history about where they came from. And that's what my son found enjoyable. So we cater to the Kenyan side, because last year we went away to Nibe, so we learned a lot of history about that. So for Kenya, we learned about their people, and what they did for their people and how they fought colonization. And with that, where he learned with that is he then did a project about it. He wrote me an essay on it. And so I'm already combining English because we're learning words like sentence starters, adverbs, describing words, punctuation, new vocabulary, spellings, the meanings of the words. So I'm already incorporating English in with the history. With the science, what I did was, because it's boring, he's very hands-on, he's an earthy person, he's always learned outside. So with the science, being stuck at a screen, what I did was, there's a few home educating companies that do experiments online, and they'd send the materials to us, and we would do it for an hour on Zoom with a few other families doing our experiments. Then also around May, I bought a butterfly kit, and it came with a butterfly house you can keep indoors and some caterpillars in a jar. And he wrote a report and he journaled it, the stages of the caterpillars turning into chrysalis. Then we moved it over into the butterfly house so that they could hatch once they got in the cocoons. He took photographs, he journaled all of that. And what I did, instead of me, because I know I'm finding that some parents are like not being forthcoming with the teachers, and because you want to be on side with them, so that you can create the whole point is creating a happy environment in the home. So every time his teacher would call, I'd call him and I say, we're not doing that, we're doing this. And he was so on board, because all he wants is for the children to be engaged, no matter what it was. And in the end, it's like we were teaching him, because he was like, oh, well, I didn't know that about Kenya. Oh my gosh, while I was doing a butterfly. And we'd be emailing and sending pictures, and he would then put it on. They'd have like an assembly show and tell online, and Raha's work would be on there. And maths, like science as well, cooking. You know, my son learned how to cook. He's 9. He now knows how to cook a meal. And that's chemistry, because he was making all sorts in the kitchen, and math as well with weighing. So that's how I was able to be creative. And I've only been self-employed recently, so at the time I still had a full-time job. And I would sit down and speak to my employer and say, okay, these are the certain times I'm not going to be available because I have to be helping my son. And I think that's important too, because your employer, they should be empathetic and know that you can't now run your job the same as you was doing. There's no way you can do 9 to 5 in 9 to 5 hours now. And so what I would do, I'd find when my work was the most priority at work, and it would be the mornings. So in the mornings, my son wouldn't log on. He'll do light stuff like exercising with his sister, or they'd be going out to play, or he would read a book, or even, play some Roblox while I'll be doing my work in the morning. And then in the afternoon, that's when I would be sitting down with my son, and we'd be sitting down and working together. And that's what I would be doing.
Thank you very much for that. There are a few questions I'll come back to you on. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
Teresa, how did you,
Okay, so when it first started last year, my son was in reception. So I probably had it a bit easy, because obviously it's all about play, learning things, but it's not anything, they're not about to do their GCSEs or anything like that. So a lot of the things that they learn from home anyway, still at that age. So when he first finished, they didn't set any work for him at all. So he just felt like it was summer holidays. No work. But it was also around the time of the Black Lives Matter movement. So it was kind of good for me, because where we live and where the school that we go to, he's like one of 3 Black children in his class. So, and not that more in the whole school either. So it was a good time for me to teach him about himself, similar to yourself, but more about just who he is and to accept himself and things like that, like the things that I was involved in, things I was listening to. A good thing that came out of everything was we saw like Black History Kids shows, things like that, things that are important to me that school's not going to teach. And I didn't have any work from school. And to be honest, they kept us up to date with what was happening, but I didn't really know fully what he was learning at school anyway. He would just come out with things and I'm like, where did you learn that from? But obviously they're teaching it at school. I just don't know what subject they're on or anything like that. So we just did a different type of learning. It wasn't really about school at all. It was about enjoying yourself, living yourself, and just staying alive during the pandemic. So we didn't have home learning until this year. It's done in Google Classroom, so it's not done on Zoom. You just complete the work and send it in. I found that at first I was trying to achieve every little thing that they said, because my worry still is that he's going to go to school and not have picked up things that he should know or be behind and things like that. Or also that the things I'm teaching him aren't actually registering because I'm not a teacher. So that is a concern. So I've tried to break it down into smaller chunks because he gets very fidgety and he also gets very frustrated if he feels like it's difficult, which I just realized for myself, it's no point making it hard for both of us. So if it makes it easier for him to do smaller, try and do smaller bits. After conversations I had this week, I've realized that maybe it should be even smaller than what I was doing. And also what's worked for me is reward. So we'll do some learning and then he'll be like, oh, can I go on the computer for a bit? And he's still going to computer, but he'll wake up in the morning and he'll want to go on the computer. So I say, no, we're going to do some learning first. So then he's eager to do it because he wants to go and do his fun stuff on the computer. And so it's working out really well. The more relaxed I am, the more relaxed he is. So I'm just trying to remember, keep cool. It can get frustrating, but keep cool. And yeah, it's going well. It's going well.
Yeah, thank you. You had said that when they start this year, so you're talking about when they started is when they went back in September.
Yeah,
you start having...
No, like literally 2021.
Okay. Oh, 2021, so January.
Yeah. Before that, there wasn't anything online or anything like that.
Okay. Okay, so January you transitioned to going online. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And another thing is in terms of what impact do you feel that the online teaching have been having or have had on the mental health of these children?
For me personally, I don't make it I try not to make it a stressful thing for him. We just have our little bits of paperwork. The only thing is he might miss seeing his friends. But I just think because of the age he is, it's not really concentrated on the work side. We're playing, he's at home with his brother, they're playing. So I think that has been a healthy balance, that he's not sitting at the computer all day having to be videoed and you've got to turn up for the class at a certain time or anything like that. I've got to work as well. So I mix it in between my day, my work and for him. So I believe that it's been okay for his mental health. He just needs to get outside more and not want to be on the computer playing Roblox and stuff.
Okay. Yes, Natalie, in terms of your mental
health.
I
think for me, I think you just need to listen to your child. We was having this conversation earlier today, Debbie, that when it came to my son, he's very vocal about what he will not do and what he will do. And so if he's at his screen, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And he's not saying it because he's lazy or anything. He knows his limits. He knows he needs a break. And so at that point, I would listen to him and we would go and take a break. However, for my daughter now, she's very much a people pleaser. And she knows straight A's, top sets in her classes. So she'd be on the computer all the time studying. And I'd have to come in a bit like you with your son and be like, Phoenix, you have to take a break. You can't be on this anymore. It was getting stressful for her. So I had to call her teacher and be like, Phoenix is not going to be on, or she's not going to hand in this work at this time because she needs a break. She's stressed out. And so with that, it did affect Phoenix. So I had to I couldn't trust her for her to say no, because she would just do it. I had to just intervene and be like, no, you're not doing it. You're gonna have a break. And yes, the work's gonna be late, but your mind is more important than a deadline. So yeah.
Thank you. It's interesting because this is something I keep on saying on all my platform. It is easier for a child to catch up than for me to fix a broken child. Because when a child is broken mentally, yes, I've got background in psychology, etc., but I still can't fix that child together as the child was before. Whereas if a child is behind academically, we could have a lot of intervention, we could have revision session, we could have a whole lot. So that's why I feel that it is so very important that parents allow the children to take time off the screen. It doesn't matter what the teachers have said. Because you see, what I think is happening is we are forgetting that these are little human beings or big human beings. We seem to think that once we come on the platform, we have to teach all of these things, but forgetting that when we in the physical classroom, the children are moving around. Because in my class, my students are all moving around. I would have, let's say, a 15-minute lesson, but I don't even need to give them a break because I'm doing 3 different activities. I'm saying, okay, now it's time for you guys to do this topic. Come on, in your group. So therefore they're getting up and moving around. And I'm saying, okay, we now change group, and then the feedback. So they're actually doing different activities. But when we're having them on the screen, I think that educators are forgetting that they're just on the screen. They're not moving anywhere. So we need to be very conscious of saying, okay, let we move you around. Because what I do with my students, yes, I've got them on a 50-minute lesson. What I do after 20 minutes, I say, okay, guys, come on, we take a 5 minutes break. I say, get off the screen. I want you guys to go have a walk, go to the bathroom, stretch, and then come back. So when they come back, they're going to say, back, you know, I'm here, miss, thanks, miss, or whatever. Because I think it is important. And even when I have a double lesson, I have 2 to 3 minutes break, because the brain could only take 20 and 30 minutes, the maximum. Any more than that, it's like putting water in a full cup. You have a full cup of water and you just keep on pouring the water in it. And what's going on is there's no water going into the cup, the water is just falling out. So that's what's happening to our children brain, that we need to be conscious. So my son have an hour on his lesson, and I'm going, when I give my student a 5 minutes break, I'm also going up and say to him, get off the computer. Oh, but miss, get off the computer. I really don't care what me says or whatever, because you see, they're forgetting that we can't just be teaching, talking. It doesn't make sense. And I've been listening on to my son's teachers teaching, because we have break at different times, because I have lunch time, you know, different from him. So I'm going to go in and listen to his teacher. I'm saying to him, boy, I'm not surprised why you're both. Because some of it is monotone, because some of these teachers feel that they need to get all this done. But what we are forgetting is we cannot teach to the national curriculum, because the national curriculum is not designed for the pandemic. The national curriculum is designed that when all your children is in front of you, you teach them and they learn, you give them little tests, etc. They're moving around, etc. But we don't have that. We now have a pandemic, and we have the national curriculum, and we need to drop that aside because it doesn't work. And I think as parents, I'm now talking as a parent, that we need to realize when it's not working for our children. We need to say to them, okay, take a break. It doesn't matter that you have this work to do, because the question is, how are they assessing this work? We cannot assess it as we used to assess it, because you don't know who is doing this work for those children.
Exactly. And I think as well is school is now being taught at home. Exactly. And you cannot bring school in home. And parents need to realize that now they are the boss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very true. I like that.
Yeah, you know, like, so don't let them dictate what goes on in your home. Mm-hmm. And it's the same for work as well, like your employers. Don't let them dictate what goes on in your home. Mm-hmm. So I think we kind of as parents, you really need to know your rights. Don't be afraid to step on toes. Do it. This is your child. And remember that everything is education, not just what they're putting in that script. Everything is education. Even if your child is on Roblox, they're learning stuff. My son's on Roblox, and he'll come to me the other day talking about he has goals. You know, so he's learning. It may not be in the most conservative or, you know, the most normal way of learning, but he's learning and he's taking education from that. And I just think that we really need to start trusting our children and take the control back away from the teachers and the government, because you've got one person teaching 30 children. They cannot know what's best for your child. You are your best teacher, your child's best teacher. As a parent, you are their best teacher. And I think we really need to remember that and have some confidence. You don't need to have a teaching qualification to learn how to teach the child. You already have that connection, that bond. You already know. So it's when you can trust yourself, then you'll be able to trust your child. And I think that's how you should lead in their education.
I totally agree.
And I think as well, like what you said before, when you communicate with your child's teacher, I think that is really important. Like a lot of them will understand. So if you feel like, oh, I don't like what they're doing, there's no need to feel stressed about it. You can often say to them, I can do this, this, and this. So this is what you can expect from me. And they'll appreciate that, rather than thinking, oh, you're not doing any work or anything like that. I did that. I said, there's no way I'm going to get all this work done in a day. Like setting art and geography, we can learn that in so many other ways. There is no need for me to complete work at all. Like, it's 5. He can do, he can paint, he can do things, loads of arty things. That's what they do. That's what they naturally do. So I've said to them that won't happen, but because I communicated it, it's not a big deal. I think we make it worse for ourselves and set these goals for ourselves when they don't necessarily expect us to achieve all of these things. But then I think they also need to communicate as well that they don't expect all of these things, because we'll just pile the pressure on ourselves, thinking that it's the best thing for our child when often it isn't.
That's very true, because one of the things is, you know, the amount of work that the teachers are setting as an educator, it's unrealistic. I say to my students, one of the things they complain to me is they're under pressure, they're stressed, teachers giving them a lot of workbook to do for homework. I don't give homework. I said, and when you leave my lesson, I want you to take care of your mental health. That's it. That's my, you know, that's my take on all that, because personally, I don't feel homework works. Homework doesn't work, because we also know that when, as educators, you set homework, a lot of educators don't mark the homework, because the homework is set to please the parents, not necessarily because of what you wanted to achieve, but because the parent feels that, oh, if my child isn't given homework, my child is not achieving. It's a prop. Because you see, your child could be achieving by learning from the environment. That's the best teachers. And everything you do is learning. Learning is lifetime learning. Learning is not only in the classroom. And we've got this mindset, this conditioning that learning only takes place in the school. We're now seeing it differently, because schools are not open. Only few children going to school, and we're now teaching from at home. But we need to look at a different aspect of teaching through play, because when we realize when children are in primary school, in terms of their academic ability, very high. When they go to secondary school, they've gone down. The question is, what happened from primary school to secondary school is the way they're taught. And we need to start educating through play, because that's the biggest form of teaching. Because, you know, we're now finding that out as parents, you know, parents who decide to homeschool as well, and parents who are actually teaching from home. And, you know, when you find that the way the child is beginning to learn the information, how boring it is, you need to start using differentiation, because in the school, the mindset is, although that we're talking about differentiation, we feel that one size fits all. It's unrealistic. They're different children. So now Parents are now teaching the children according to the children's style of learning and their ability. So these children are now being taught in terms of differentiation, the child's ability. So we now need to start looking at, as Natalie, what you say is really interesting. And Teresa, you also point that out. We need to teach according to what the children are learning and how they're able to learn.
Yeah.
And those are things we as parents need to start taking on board. Instead of we feeling that when they bring this whole package home, they need to learn all of that. Hell no.
Agreed.
You know, so those are things. I feel that the pandemic have actually taught us how to differentiate in terms of, on the online platform, the students are actually controlling the story. Yeah. They're deciding whether or not they're going to do the homework, whether or not they're going to come on, they're deciding when they're going to come on, they're deciding whether they're not going to be listening to you. So the students are differentiating how and when they want to learn. And we have no choice because we've got no comeback. They're controlling things. You could set them a pile of homework. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. So what are you going to do?
There isn't anything you can do.
We need to be. Sorry?
I said that there isn't anything you can do.
Exactly. There isn't.
No.
There isn't. And we need to be realistic because one of the things my students were complaining about is, oh, the amount of work they're getting, teachers don't realize that they're getting homework from everybody. And it's like the stress. But my question is, which I keep on asking educators and head of department, etc. Okay, so what are we going to do with this? They don't have exams. So how are we going to assess them? We cannot assess them according to the national curriculum because we haven't taught them all these things and they've learned it in a different way. But that doesn't mean that learning have not taken place. Mm. It's interesting because I keep on saying it's interesting because I'm finding this whole so-called normal quite interesting. Because I've been reading on I think it's TS, they're talking about lost learning. What does that mean to you guys? Lost learning. As if you're dead, right? So you've lost the learning.
Basically, they've lost their control. That's what it is.
I like that. I like it.
It's control. And they're packaging it up in a different way. And also that kind of language is fear-based. Mm-hmm. So it's putting parents in a headspin, fear, And so then it enables the system to then pedal push something out that's going to recoup this lost learning. And you'll see parents pushing their children into this scenario. That's not needed. Even finding out that children don't need GCSEs to go to university, that. So why are they doing GCSEs then? You don't need it. And it's proven you don't need it because last year the GCSEs didn't take place. They gave them predictive grades. A-levels didn't take place. They gave them predicted grades, and people were able to get into universities and their colleges and able to do their chosen courses. Yeah. So already it's blatantly it's blatant to people, but people are still in a headspin, and that's one of the reasons why I took my children out of school. I registered them last year. I'm a full-time home educator, and because they don't need it.
Okay, so was you doing it before the pandemic?
What home educating? No. Oh. So the pandemic came, and then I was like, no, I can do this. I know my children better, and so I took them out. Yeah.
Okay.
The interesting thing about all of that, this is actually demonstrating, right, that the A-level and the GCSE, A, they're not fit for purpose, and B, what are they doing? And it's also demonstrating that you need to rely on the educators because they know the children best. Because you remember when the government had decided last year to actually take it on board and ministers started giving grades to the students, etc. You see the big uproar. Look what happened. They had to go back to the educators' predicted grades. Because after all, we have the students for 1 or 2 years. We know them better than anyone else. because we're seeing them every day. We're teaching them every day. So that is actually demonstrating how assessment need to be changed in order to identify the needs of the children other than this assessment that is done out there to connect to the children. So it is so true.
The wrong people making the decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And not listening to what people are saying. No, this is what works better. We've seen it. But
exactly.
we've got boxes to tick and other things that they're trying to achieve that aren't in our best interest. So
exactly. That is so very true. Because even when you look in terms of this lost learning, I've been having a big argument about that. You see, in my head, the language that's been used is very fear, as you rightly said, Natalie, fear-based, but everything else to have done with the pandemic and education have been fear-based.
yeah.
And sadly, parents actually buying into that, thinking, oh my goodness, my child is missing out. What do you mean? Haven't your child been learning? Isn't life lifetime learning, lifetime learning, long life? You know, it's like a continuous thing. Life is about learning, and we need to start having that in our mind, because we're so conditioned to thinking that they have to be learning according to curriculum or else they're not learning. What is lost learning? They haven't lost anything. They've just learned in a different way that we're not used to.
Yeah.
But they've learned a lot, because some children have actually thrived during this pandemic, and that have been totally ignored. That's what I said, you know, we need to be very careful when we use certain words, because some children might feel, okay, well, I'm useless because I've lost X amount of learning. So therefore, there's something wrong with me. I'm not achieving, which is incorrect. A lot of them have achieved so much more. They know how to count because they know how to cook. They know how to, they went to the shop. They know how to do maths. They know how to do time. You name it. They've just learned differently.
And they're getting it one-on-one rather than being a classroom full of 30 children. They've got our attention for that amount of time. Like, I feel like my son's handwriting has improved so much since he's been with me, because we just keep going over it. We can practice doing different things, write different sentences that are fun sentences that he just wants to write. It's just made a huge difference. And what I've really enjoyed about it is that I know everything is being taught now. Before, I didn't know. I'd pick him up from school. What did you learn today? I can't remember. And so I didn't know what he was being taught, but now I do know. And so if I see things come up on TV or something, I can relate it to what we've just learned, which is really good. That's a bonus for me.
So that's your triumph.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. What's about you, Natalie?
What my triumph?
Yeah.
My triumph. My children are setting up businesses. My daughter is created free logos. She's learned how to sew, so we've bought a sewing machine. She's making bows. She's writing a movie script. My son is, well, he's always been coding, so he's been creating his own games and doing logos and creating a YouTube channel. And yeah, we've become closer. Like I was saying to you the other day, they were creating boundaries, so saying no to me. Those are real like triumphs. The emotional intelligence, them learning about finances, financial literacy. I managed to teach them. My daughter knows how to budget, so she has a spending budget where she does her own cooking. They know about investment, portfolio. They're creating their own stocks and shares. Those are the things I weren't able to do because they were at school before and I was working full time and I had no time. So even wanting to teach, my daughter learned how to cook in 2 months, and it's been ages me trying to find time to cook, but I've been working Monday to Friday, and then come the weekend, I'm just tired. I just want to do the easiest thing, which is play. I don't want to have to teach or do stuff or show them how to do stuff. So now they're at home, I don't know, it's nice, it's calmed down, and I'm able to show them. And like Teresa said, it's more one-on-one time, and you know what they're learning, what they're enjoying. And it's
so you're actually playing to the strengths other than against the strength, and that must be a good thing. For me, you know, it's like my son and I have been having, because he's been doing sociology. So we've been having some heated debate, and he's saying, "Oh, you've lost the argument." And no, I haven't lost it. And it's like, debate have been, constant. And that has been so fantastic. But it's like you having to work, it's like being very, being able to plan well, because for me, because I'm teaching online, it means that my time is very prescriptive. So when it's actually the times when you have a break, I don't have a break. So our conversation is normally after school, because we both finish around the same time. Some days he finished a bit later than me. So, after that, he's saying to me, "Oh yes, I've been looking," because when I'm having my break, when I'm teaching, he having his break sometimes, and he's going to, look through my lesson and, look at how I'm teaching and all of that. And then saying, "Oh, you're such an excited teacher." Yeah, I have to make it exciting, or else I'm going to have some bored children. So it's like all of that I'm having, because he is looking through, because there is this, like, door is a glass door, so he's looking through and seeing me calling out. Sometimes I don't even realize he's there, calling out my students to talk or write on the chat, whereas he doesn't have those kind of engagement with his teacher. The teacher just said to him, "Okay," say to them, "Okay, would someone write in the chat?" When you say would someone write in the chat, nobody writes in the chat. Nobody writes it. You see there, it's like, "Can someone write in the chat? Come on, guys." And I'm going, "Come on, guys." And nobody. I thought, okay, I'm going to call out names, and you're forced to call names.
Yeah.
You see, so those are some of the things, because you have 20 how many children on the platform, whereas, and it's also, in terms of in the physical classroom, is challenging to do differentiation for all the children. So you have to do it in groups. But when you're teaching at home, as you guys rightly say, you are able to differentiate, because you're teaching to your children's strength, which the educators are not able to teach to every child's strength. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's impossible. So what are some of the challenges that you guys have identified?
Gosh, the challenges. I guess for me personally, having them with me all the time.
Yep.
I think that's and it's not so much like tired as in physical tired, it's mentally tired. And shouting a lot more than I would necessarily, which is something that I'm working on, because it's not like I'm angry at them, I'm frustrated at myself more than anything else. Those would be my big challenges. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think mine have been trying to work and do the learning at the same time. But I'm trying to overcome that by just being more structured and organized. So I'm trying to get myself just a kind of timetable that's just in my head, so I know like sometimes you get an email and you feel like you have to reply straight away, and you don't. Like at the time, I'm trying to tell myself, like, just wait a minute, finish what's going on, because otherwise I'm trying to do two things at once. So if I just concentrate on learning, forget about work for that period of time, and then deal with learning while he can go and do his own thing. So trying to juggle those two has been hard. And yeah, it can be really frustrating trying to homeschool. Like, sometimes when you're reading a sentence and you're like, "Oh, I don't know what that says." You've just said it 10 times. How do you not know what it says? And then you start to find yourself getting really frustrated. So yeah, trying to calm that down is a challenge.
And thank you. And during your journey, because I'm looking at it as homeschooling your children is a journey, because you're going through this journey it's a transition also, because you're used to this. Is not that you've said that you're used to actually having the teacher having all the control, to you not having the control. Because the teachers have no control anymore. The school have no control anymore. Yes, they're giving you the package, they're telling you what to do, etc. But you really don't have to do it either. You could actually say, okay, this isn't working for my child. I am going to make sure that they learn the writing, the maths, etc. But this is how they're able to learn it. It's not how the school have actually shown it to them, because they cannot connect with it this way. But they could connect with it this way, the same way you said, Natalie, you spoke to the teacher. So therefore, you don't have to do it the way the school set it. The idea is if they want you to do maths, they want you to do English, that's the main thing they want them to do, to learn maths and English. So therefore you need to look at, okay, how does my child connect to learning this maths and English? You might find that how the school have actually done it, it doesn't work for your child. So there's where we have differentiation. You are differentiating how your child is able to learn. So you actually, teaching to your child's strength. In the classroom, we cannot do that because we have 30, 34 children sometimes. So that's why I'm saying to parents is, yes, the school send you a way to do it, but that doesn't mean that it has to be done prescriptively in that way, because your child may not learn in that way. Whereas in the school, if we are doing differentiation as we meant to do it, we were doing it according to every child learning style. It's impossible. So now is the time that parents, I find, should find the best way the children learn and teach to the child's strengths, other than how the teachers say that, okay, this is the package, that's how you're supposed to teach it, and that's how your child's supposed to learn. Your child isn't learning like that. Your child can buy into that. It doesn't mean anything to your child, but that same information, you teach it through cooking and see how much that child learned from it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. For me, my challenge was having to be teaching on the online platform and having a 14-year-old child upstairs, wondering, I'm hearing footsteps. Is he walking around? Is he doing exercise when he's supposed to be learning on the platform? And when I go upstairs and realizing that, he's actually drawing, there's something I thought, you know what? You need to let that go, because it depends on how the teacher is teaching.
Yeah.
Because also it depends upon what he's gaining from that, because differentiation, every child learns very differently and should be taught differently in an ideal world, but we know it's not always possible. So therefore he's learning the way he feels that works for him. So that was some of the challenge. And for me, actually, moving away from the national curriculum and reminding myself that he's at home and he's learning differently. So therefore I need to allow him to learn, or me teach him according to his strength. It took a while for me to actually get that in my head, because it's one thing when I teach in the student, I'm saying to my student, okay, this is how I want you to learn, etc. But yes, with my child, I kind of have to remind myself.
Definitely.
Okay, what tips would you give parents out there who are struggling to teach their children?
Firstly, it's about creating a happy home, a happy learning environment. That's what I would say for everyone involved, because you want to minimize the stress. And that's just about having discussions with your child about what they enjoy about the learning, what they don't. Stuff like getting them involved in a schedule. My daughter, she has her own one. My son, me and him will do a loose schedule about what he's going to do throughout the week. And that helps the child make them feel like they have control as well, like they've got input in their own learning. And I would say regular breaks, like you said, Debbie, like every 20 minutes. But even for me, I work 25 minutes and then I have a 5-minute break. So I can't maintain any information beyond 25 minutes. So how is the child going to? So make sure you have regular breaks. What else? And yeah, don't be afraid to change up the curriculum. Don't be afraid to find something else that they enjoy. And also let the teacher know. Don't hide from the teacher, because the teacher knows. Like, some of these teachers have children too, like you. So they're juggling, they're having a balancing act. So they understand that you can't sit there and teach this whole thing at home. So just let them know what you're struggling with, which is what Therese said as well. Like, this is what I can do, and this is what he can't do or she can't do. And yeah, that's what I would say as well. And work as well, like sit down with your employer and figure out a way where not only do you feel okay, you're not run down, but where you can still work, manage your workload and homeschool. And maybe it means delegating some of your work off to your colleagues who don't have kids.
Yeah.
And he can manage it, because that's what I was doing. No, I can't do that. I'm sorry, but I can't. But it's just being open up, and it's just being open, and yeah, because you can't manage it. You can't manage it all on your own. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Teresa?
Okay, my first tip would be to relax. There's no point in getting stressed about it, and if it's becoming a battle, it's not worth it at all. Similar to what Natalie said, it's about life at home, because once school's finished, you still got to get on with your child. You still have a relationship with your child. Like, don't let this situation ruin your relationship with your child, which is the most important thing. So you just have to relax and take the pressure off yourself, which will take the pressure off your child as well. My second tip would be to listen to your child. If they feel like they've had enough, or if they feel like it's too hard even, because sometimes I would feel like, no, you can definitely do the next one. There's no need to do the easier one, but maybe they just don't feel like it that day. Something like that. So just listen to them. If there's an easier option, take the easier option on this occasion. Like, you can push them in other ways or test them in other ways. You don't always have to be trying to show the teachers that you're doing the best work all the time. It's not necessary. My third tip would be, I was going to say communicate with the teachers as well, so I'll try and think of another one. My third tip would be, make sure that all your learning isn't just in the classroom, in the house. You go outside and do some learning that way, in some way, shape or form. It clears your mind so much. Just being in the house all day can affect your mood, so whether you're learning or not. So go outside, even if you're still learning, do a little bit outside, and then come back and then get on with the rest of your learning or the rest of your day.
Thank you for that. It's so very true, because in terms of one of my tips would be, teach to the child's strength, because we need to realize that not every child could learn the way that they've been taught in the classroom, and in the classroom we cannot differentiate with every child. It's unrealistic. We have 34 children. I'm fortunate because the school I'm in, I have 22, and some classes I have 15, etc. But I know in mainstream school, you might have 34 children, because I'm looking at my child's platform and the teacher has 34 children. Sometimes she has 32. So it's pointless, because we cannot differentiate with every child, and not every child learns the same way. So the fact that you now have your children at home with you, it's a blessing in terms of teaching to the child's strength. Forget about the national curriculum, because what they want your child to do is learn to read and write. So that's why you're going to be looking at learning to read and write, because we cannot test the national curriculum now because it's a pandemic. The curriculum have not designed during the pandemic time. It's been designed, God knows, 19 how much, and it have not really been changed according to how things are being changed. So that's something we need to look at. Another thing is, we need to look at that learning have not been lost. Parents out there, your child have not lost any learning, Your child have just learned very differently. Test your child knowledge and you're going to be surprised to see how much that child knows. Because you want children to be an all-rounder other than just being robots. And that's what school have been doing to our children, teaching them as robots. And when the child dare to challenge the system or challenge the teacher, the child is then seen as being rude, etc. But sometimes not every child is able to learn in a robotic fashion. So we need to forget about this lost learning and see that, what have my child learned while this child have been on pandemic? What have my child learned being at home with me? There's so much, I've looked at so much my child have learned in terms of, he's doing business, he's doing a manga drawing, he's doing a manga book, and it's like all of these things. He's also decided he's doing a logo this and, charging to do logos, because he's got the time to do that. So we need to allow our children sometimes to dictate the learning, because as we know, the schools, sorry, I'm in the school too. I've been in it, I've been educated in the school. They just forget that you're dealing with real human beings and they're not robots. We just teaching, and then sometimes you have to think, hold on, this child haven't learned that, not because you're a bad teacher. That child haven't learned it because it doesn't connect with the child. As I keep on saying to people, I'm a very different teacher. I don't chalk and talk. Sometimes I say that I'm a lazy teacher because I don't chalk and talk, but I do a lot of group work and it's a lot more work to do. Doing group work so that children learn through group work and children learn to mind map is a lot more work for children to learn than just getting them to just write. Because I don't allow my children to just write. I want you to be part of the learning. You need to be proactive in the learning. You can't just come into the classroom and think you're going to be a sponge and then I talk at you. No, sir. I don't talk at you. We've got a partnership. So I think that as well as, in the school, there should be a partnership. When you're actually teaching your children at home, there should be a partnership. And your children should be talking in this partnership and so should you. So these are some of the things I think that parents need to go back to the teachers to let the teachers know, this is what you find out about your child. This is the way your child learns best. Because our children do not learn according to how they're being taught. Chalk and talk doesn't work. I taught in a school just before Christmas. And initially, I found it very painful. I was there for 10 weeks. The first week I found it so painful because I was told I have to chalk and talk. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, Debbie, how are you going to do that? And the students were getting at me. One of them said to me, oh, Miss, you're here to teach, just teach us. Really? And I'm thinking, how am I going to respond to that child? I remember turning my back and going up to walking towards the board. I'm thinking in my head, okay, are you going to say that you're packing your bag and leaving that school, or are you going to be rising up to the challenge? So I walked back and I said to the students, you're right. I'm here to teach you, but I teach very differently. I do not chalk and talk. I say, we've got a partnership. Mm-hmm. And initially the students had disliked me with a passion because I am not coming to lecture to you. I remind you that we are a partnership. And by the second week, it was so funny. By the second week, the students have understood that they need to be proactive because a lot of times students just sit there and teachers are talking at the student and they're just writing some pretty notes. Ask them 5 minutes later to summarize what you've told them. They don't know what you told them. It's in the book. So I don't allow students to write. I allow them to, we have a dialogue, and I've been saying that to my son. We have a dialogue. We talk about it, you discuss it, you think about what I've said to you. If I'm using a PowerPoint, that is my PowerPoint. That is not yours. You need to understand what I've taught you, and then you summarize your learning. So when I finish teaching you, I'll give you 10, 15 minutes to summarize what my PowerPoint was all about. And the students understood that's the way I taught. So after a while, they really started learning. And I was surprised. By week 3, they were telling me I was a good teacher. Really? I had to say, really? And they said, yes, miss. Really? Okay. All I'm saying is really, because I'm shocked because, very differently. There's sometimes we need to be innovative. And I do feel that this platform have taught parents to be innovative and taught educators to be innovative. And another thing is, I do feel that children need to be given rewards. So let's say your child have, in the same way the child have done something and you're thinking, okay, yeah, I'll give you a certificate for completing this piece of work, especially in the primary school sector. So in the same way, you might have in the primary school that the child have been given a sticker or a reward for doing a good piece of work. Some children like that. It empowers them. So you know your child. So you know what empowers them and you know what works for them. Some children might be given stickers at school or certificates at school, but it doesn't work for them. They just take it because the teacher gave it to them. Mm-hmm. But you might have some children that really need those or thrive on those or it empowers them. That's fine. But you need to know whether or not that works for your child. If it works for your child, therefore, I personally would encourage you, to devise a certificate or a reward system of, it might be monetary something at the end of the session to say you've done something good, well done, etc. Because we know our children more than the teachers now. So therefore, a teacher might be giving a child the certificate, but the child don't even want the certificate because it doesn't mean nothing to them. So now, you can go back and say to your child, oh, well, it's okay. The certificate doesn't really work for them. So it's like, we need to identify what works for our children. So those are my tips in terms of identifying what works for your children and teaching to your child's strength. Because you've been sent a whole package at home, that doesn't mean that you do all the package. And because your lesson, the teacher have a lesson for 1 hour, your child sitting at that platform for 1 hour, just listening to it, that doesn't mean the child should be staying on the platform. Get them off. Not every day it works for them. Go for a walk, do meditation, do exercise, dance. You don't have to be a dancer to dance. So we need to find those things that works for our children, not because the school say you have to do X, Y, Z. You actually do that because it may not work for your child. You might find the school might be trying to push your child a square peg in a round hole. And that's why your child may not have been achieving. That's why your child probably, behavior might be an issue. Not because the child has a behavior issue, but because the child is not learning anything.
Right.
So now is the best time for us parents to identify what works for our children.
Definitely.
Is there anything that you guys want to say before we close off?
That I'll shamelessly plug myself.
Sorry?
I said I will shamelessly plug myself.
That's fine.
So next Wednesday I'll be doing co-hosting a workshop all about homeschooling.
Brilliant.
Just helping parents through the homeschooling journey, giving tips, and with another single mom blogger who's also a teacher as well. So she'll be there to give really good tips and advice. And that's next Wednesday. You can find the details on my Instagram page, which is The Lone Parent.
Okay, have you got a flyer so I could actually share it on my page? Okay, can you send me that after, because that's very, very important in terms that, so parents who are having some challenges, at least they'll have some tips as to, how to navigate this platform, and especially if parents feel that they have to do everything. It's impossible to do everything. It doesn't work, Yes, Teresa, have you got one more thing you need to say to us before we close?
Keep it positive.
Oh, I love that. That actually sums it all up. There's nothing else for me to say with that. That's fantastic. Keep it positive. That's brilliant. It's important.
It really is. It changes everything.
Yeah, it's changing the whole mindset of that child and of the parents.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, my Facebook audience, for actually coming on and listening to my parents as to some of the challenges that they've been experiencing. And parents out there, you need to remember, you know your children more than anybody else right now. Before the pandemic, we knew your children more than you did. But now your children are spending 24/7 with you. You know them more than we do. So it'll be quite nice when we go back into the physical classroom, you tell us how your child learned best, so that we actually cater as far as possible to the need of your children, because we also know we were not able to do that because it is impossible to teach to every child's need. So when you go back, you need to actually tell us that, oh yes, my child learned better this way and my child learned better that way, so we have a better idea of how to serve your children. Thank you very much, everybody, and I'll be back on tomorrow with with educator, looking at the mental health of our teachers and of our children and how we actually navigate that. Because for me, yes, I'm an educator, but mental health for me is far, far, far more important than the academic ability and academic achievement of the children. Because as I keep on saying, they could always catch up academically, but when they're broken, it's more challenging for me to try to fix them. And sometimes we may never be able to fix them. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. Stay blessed, take care, and stay safe. Bye-bye.